Morning, Janice.
Good morning.
Are you comfortable in the seat there?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much for volunteering to join us this morning. And can we start off by you telling us a little bit about yourself and your situation?
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And once again, I'd just like to thank Health Watch for inviting me. I must say that this was all planned, well, in my eyes very quickly, and I've got 3 sides of A4 to remember, so do excuse me if I do forget anything. As you know, my name is Janice Tillett. First and foremost, I am a wife and mother of an 8-year-old daughter. Until February last year, I worked full-time for a national charity, undertaking such tasks like deafblind awareness. In my younger days, and we can all remember those, I had the real privilege of representing Great Britain at the 1992 Paralympic Games in Barcelona, where I won 2 silver medals with the girls in the swimming relay team. I was really inspired last night when I listened to the Invictus Games, because their slogan is, I am. And I think that's quite a good message to start with. Yes, okay, I was born visually impaired with other physical disabilities, including a cleft palate. But it was through that visual impairment that I represented my country. I am now defined as deaf-blind, which in my case means that I am completely blind and have a moderate hearing loss, which necessitates the implantation of bone-anchored hearing aids. As well as that, I've got physical disabilities, including 2 hips, so yes, my husband does call me the bionic woman. But I won't lie and say that I haven't come through life totally unscathed, as I have received some good input from the community mental health team.
Well, that's quite an introduction, isn't it? Your life has obviously been very full, Janice. Lots of it actually quite positive, and you've achieved an awful lot. But I know from the discussions that we've had, you've had to overcome some obstacles. So you're going to tell us, I think, about how you've overcome some of those.
Okay, to use the Invictus slogan, I am. I first want to acknowledge my husband Roy. He's working today because we've been married for over 15 years, and for most of that time, well, all of that time really, he's been my informal, unpaid carer. Now, he's had to juggle that role with full-time work, which involves shift work, and if I tell you that the good job is that he's not deaf-blind because he's actually a train driver. So it would actually be quite funny if he was. We have, unfortunately, now very little access to a wider family network, but nevertheless, you know, we do have some support from, you know, friends and family, but, you know, the access to wider family, we don't really have people in this area. So, whilst that makes life, you know, more challenging, you know, life has always been very hectic. We managed really well up until my pregnancy and then my birth of our daughter over 8 years ago. Yes, she's 8 going on 18 already. She's already talking about boys. Anyway, moving swiftly on, you know, things were hectic, but we were managing. But then, you know, we got the social care support in, we seemed to start off well, but then my husband became poorly, and with that came a big change of care agency, and some of the care workers we were experiencing, quite frankly, did not have the training in deaf-blindness or with someone with a child. And when, as you can think, deaf-blindness is you're going to have an issue with communication. We had care workers that didn't have the communication skills, nor did they have the attitude. For example, one care worker refused to help me change my baby's nappy. Another care worker couldn't support me to bathe my baby. And I've even had care workers guiding me along the street talking on their mobile phone. So, yeah, things like that were really quite challenging. But that said, you know, for us, you know, went through quite a series of care workers, care agencies, and even a series of care managers, and we had to sort of tell our story over and over again. So unfortunately, that really wasn't a person-centred approach to things. You know, and it did actually cause a lot of family stress. But that was then. And moving on, in 2009, 2010, we went to, you know, seek independent advocacy to make a case to adult social care. We then sought the help of the Royal National Institute for the Blind, because their legal team have a community care part of it, and through the law we eventually got our personal budget finalised. And this personal budget enabled me to buy in the specialist support I needed from people that were or are deaf-blind aware. They're known as communicator guides because, as the name suggests, they communicate and guide. And obviously specialist services do cost that more money.
Yes.
We also were able to buy in services of a nanny agency who could support me with my ever-growing daughter, because when all this started, my daughter was a toddler, and then, you know, so as you can appreciate, she was in her formative years, and we're having so many different people in and out of our house.
Yes.
It actually didn't help her development, really, so I've been told. But that said, you know, we've now, when we've been able to buy the support, we're getting a more consistency of staff, we're getting the continuity, so, you know, all that's becoming more and more positive, although the only challenge that remains, or one of the challenges that remains, is getting cover on a Sunday and bank holiday, because care workers sort of think you're not deaf-blind just because it's a bank holiday, or you don't have a daughter because it happens to be a Sunday, you know. But unfortunately, that isn't true. You know, I have got my needs 24/7,
Yeah.
and actually one of the things where people didn't understand the extent of my needs, you know, be it professionals, care workers at the time, which made it very hard. And actually, the role that Roy, my husband, played in all this wasn't really acknowledged. His needs weren't taken into account, and we eventually pushed, and he had a carers assessment in 2011, which is great, but it took pushing, and to be fair, it took the knowledge I gained from my job speaking with carers of deaf-blind people. So you could say, because I had the knowledge, I was in a position to know what was going on. If you don't have the knowledge, that can be quite difficult. So now we go to 2013, I guess. 2013 was the year, unfortunately, I was made redundant. So, and my health had deteriorated further, having had a second hip replacement in the space of a year. I went to adult social care for increased funding, was initially refused, but that was when I got involved with SENS, and they actually said, you need a specialist guidance deaf-blindness assessment. I had this assessment, and the report from the assessment was 18 pages long, and it was a very holistic report, so it came from a very holistic approach, and this eventually resulted in more funding, so that I am now able to buy more communicator guide support and more nanny support, for example, so I can do things with Mary in the school holidays if and when my husband's at work. I don't know if I've missed anything out from that lot, but I'm actually doing all this from memory, so...
No, I mean, clearly, what you've demonstrated is all the different facets of social care, but most importantly, it's not just about, the old days when someone came in and did a bit of cleaning. There's much more recognition of people as individuals, and, what has now happened is that you're able to function much better as a family, and you're all benefiting. The next question is around the Care Act that we're discussing this morning, and if you could just tell us a few things that you think are really important that we need to have in the care system to ensure that people with disabilities and their carers have a good quality of life.
Okay, well, the first thing I wanted to say in terms of being an individual, I want to be recognised as an individual person. I am, and I repeat, I am a wife and mother first. I do have knowledge and skills that I can offer to the community and society. I mean, currently, although not employed on a paid basis, I undertake voluntary work such as I've just got involved with the Northampton Circle of Life, which is through Voiceability. I do hope to become a voluntary advocate. I have worked with Sense in terms of lobbying before the Act came through. This involved my daughter and I being on BBCC here around the Care Act and how it affects deafblind people. Not to mention the fact that I am a trustee and I help at my local church, which is great. So, you know, I consider that I am quite a productive person in spite of other things. Now, we are people first. But in terms of the Care Act, I think the great thing to come of it is the provision of the specialist and appropriate assessments for people. I believe that deafblind people have been singled out in the Act as a group of people needing specialist assessments and having the input of specialist agencies who can advocate for people like myself to get our voice heard, or to advocate for other deafblind or any, regardless of disability. That I think that's the important thing, because at the end of the day, all disabled people and their families and carers, do deserve a good quality of life, and that support and funding has to be in place so that people can achieve what they want to do when they want to achieve it. Because all disabled people deserve and have the right to a quality of life, including me and my family. Finally, I just want to say, for me, the Care Act is great in as much as things like specialist assessments are going to be part of it. Hopefully without all these hurdles we've had to jump over so far. I just want to say, thank you for inviting me, Sonia, and thank you very much for listening. I will take questions at the end, as Sandra Bell said, with the panel. So save your questions to the end. In the meantime, thank you for listening and thank you for your time.